Hey everyone, welcome back to the next episode of March Madness Bracket Battle for the 2021 NCAA Tournament. A great game, slate of games today. I didn't get to watch too many of them today. I mentioned in the last video I had work, so I was working from noon till 5, so that was through a good majority of the games. Caught a little bit of a couple of them when I got off work, and then I got some dinner, and when I came back I was watching the High Point women's game, which was on at 8 o'clock, so I had to support those ladies. They unfortunately lost to the number one seed UConn in their region, so their season's come to an end, but it was a really great season for them. So really big shout out to start things off with for those High Point women. Had a really awesome season, first ever NCAA appearance, and just so much to be proud of. So hopefully, they get home safe, and we will see them again next season. But so for today's games, like I said, didn't see too many. The one I did catch the most of was the Oregon State and Oklahoma State game, which just finished up. And then I caught a little glimpses of a couple of the other games and the Rutgers and Houston game. Saw a little bit of Syracuse and West Virginia. And the other ones, I just kind of caught the scores while I had a break in work and such. But I think we can jump right into our previous rankings, which we went over yesterday, obviously with the chalk bracket and random numbers bracket tied with 22 points in first. The points per game bracket coming in third with 21. Wins with 15 points in fourth place. Coin flip and scoring margin tied for fifth with 14 points. Then our win percent bracket with 12 points. Losses bracket with 10 in eighth place. And then points per game allowed in last with 8 points. So we'll look when we get over to it, how those moved around a little, see how they were affected through today's games. But we can go and look at our best and worst of the day. So for March 21st, the first set of second round games, the round of 32, our best bracket were the wins and coin flip brackets. Those went 4 and 4 today. So for a total of 8 points, there was a possible total of 16. That's going to be the amount you'll see for every round, is that there are 16 total points for each side of the bracket that's being played. So you'll have kind of two sets of games, like we said. So 16 total points, they got half of them. So a pretty bad day for the brackets, I guess I'd say. They only got at least at the very most, half of their points. The worst bracket we had today was points per game allowed and losses brackets, which both went 2 and 6, were for 4 points total. So a really tough day for those two brackets. Like we said before, the points per game allowed, we were projecting to do pretty poorly. The best region of all of them was the Midwest region for the coin flip bracket. They hit all of the games except for the Houston game. In that one, the bracket had chosen Clemson to go through instead of Rutgers. And then in that one, it has Clemson winning as well. So missed that one, unfortunately, but otherwise had a pretty good day, missing only that one in the Midwest region. And then the worst region we saw was the points per game allowed South region and the random numbers Midwest region, which both finished with a fat goose egg. 0 points. They didn't get a single game correct in those, so 0 for 4, unfortunately, for those brackets. Definitely really tough for the random numbers bracket since they were tied for first in our rankings coming into today. Then that definitely took a big hit on them and really affected their rankings, like we'll see here in a second. Points per game allowed, we already talked about being a really poor bracket starting off. So I had a guess that was going to be like that to start off with. So not surprised to see them in the worst region and worst bracket. Once again, I think that's their third straight one for the day. So talking a little bit about before we get into my favorites and such, we'll look at our new rankings. So it actually stayed all pretty much the same, with chalk staying up in number 1 with 28 points out of a possible 48. So they've hit just over half of the games correct. Right behind them, points per game with 27, random numbered bracket with 26, wins bracket with 23, the coin flip bracket in 5th with 22, scoring margin 20 points in 6th, win percent bracket 18 in 7th, losses bracket 16 points out of 48 in 8th, and then points per game allowed with 12 points out of 48 in last, 9th place. So the biggest changes we saw today, you can kind of see from the bracket, random was obviously tied for first and then dropped down 2/3, so that's a drop of 2, and then the points per game bracket kind of made a switch with them. So they went from third place up into second. So I guess that's an increase of 1. So they were our biggest riser, as well as I do believe technically scoring margin also dropped from tied for 5th into 6th, so a drop there as well. But random numbers, definitely the big loser of the day in terms of where they were before into where they went after, which is unfortunate to see. Going into a little bit about my favorites of the day, like I said, I didn't get to see too many of the games, so a lot of this is pretty biased to the later games because it's just what I was able to pick out from those few games that I saw. My favorite game that I saw was the Oklahoma State and Oregon State game. Really fun game, went down to the wire. A lot of fun to watch, like Cade Cunningham play on Oklahoma State. Unfortunately, their season is over though. And big shout out to the Beavers of Oregon State for pulling out another win. They were projected last in the Pac-12, ended up winning the conference tournament, and are now in the Sweet 16. So a really impressive season for them so far. They were definitely my favorite game to watch. Like I said, a little bit biased since I didn't get to watch too many of them, but I think you would find a lot of people saying that was probably one of the best games of the day as well. My standout player, I didn't get to really focus in on too many individual players in today's game, so I'm going a little bit off of just what I saw on social media and based off some statistics. But Buddy Boeheim gets another shout out. He was one that we had mentioned in the first round of games to look out for and has obviously proven himself again. He had a 30-point plus outing in his first game and followed that up with 25 points, and 22 of those 25 came in the second half. So had a slow start, but picked it all back up and helped his dad, the head coach, Jim Boeheim, get into the Sweet 16 yet again. Obviously been a really legendary coach there for Syracuse, and they beat a really tough West Virginia team coached by Bob Huggins, who just got his 900th win in their game against Morehead State. So he's going to stay at 900 until next season, I guess. But we'll definitely see them back next season, I'm sure, in a really tough or in a really high position as well, like they were with that West Virginia team. My standout teams, for one, Oral Roberts obviously pulling out yet another upset against the 7th-ranked Florida Gators. Now they're going to move on to play the 3rd-ranked team in the South region, that is Arkansas, who beat Texas Tech today. And then another shout out to Loyola Chicago for beating the 1 seed Illinois on that right side of the bracket in the Midwest. So real big shout out to them. And that we will talk about a little bit in a second as well. My big surprise of the day, going back to the Oklahoma State and Oregon State game, Oklahoma State shot 27% from the field, 27% from the three-point line, and missed 12 free throws in the game. So I think that's probably the biggest surprise that I found today. Like I said, I didn't get to watch a whole lot of other games and look at statistics and follow them as closely as I had the last couple, unfortunately, so I'm sorry about that. But that one really stood out to me. That's a huge deficit that you're going to put yourself in if you shoot that poorly, especially, even free throws where, they're things that we expect shots we expect our team to make. And unfortunately, when they don't, they will end up affecting the game. And so Oklahoma State lost by 10, I think. So you think even if they made 10 of those, or even just made a few more shots, made half of those free throws that they missed and made a few more three-pointers and shot a better percentage from the field, they could easily have won that game, but unfortunately they did not. So definitely my big surprise for the day. Moving into old Brad sitting up on his perch again. His bets that we had, obviously, that we were talking about, his best bets and bad bets. Our first best bet that I'm really excited to talk about. Siri is trying to find Brad in my contacts, but they shouldn't be because I don't have a Brad in my contacts, I suppose. But so the best bet that I'm really excited to talk about is the Loyola Chicago getting into the Sweet 16 that we talked about. I said that they were a really strong defensive team, and if they played really strong defense throughout the first couple games, they could easily make it into the Sweet 16. And today they made it into the Sweet 16, so that's our first confirmed best bet. So way to go, Brad, for making a good pick. Brad, the bracket Brachiosaurus, coming in strong with his first best bet coming in. And then the other two that we can talk about that are still ongoing, we talked about Chalk 2 and 5 being the best bracket, and then we also talked about the points per game allowed bracket being the worst. So for bad bet, points per game allowed still in last place by a margin of 4 points. So they can easily, kind of hop back in. Things have started to shrink the gap a little. So obviously it was, what's that? 14-point gap between first and ninth in this game, and then or in this one, and then now it's 16. So I guess it's spread a little, but everything in between has seemed to condense a little more. So it's getting a little closer there, but that one, points per game allowed bracket, is still seeming like it's going to be in dead last for the rest of the go around. Maybe it'll make a little jump up or something. It's pretty close to the losses, but we'll have to follow that one and see. But looking good so far for that Brad bet. And then for our best bracket, we talked about the chalk number 2 and 5 that we said, and unfortunately Illinois spilled out today. So I said Gonzaga, Illinois seemed like one of the most likely matchups we were going to see, and we won't be seeing that one. So currently still sitting in first place, but it's right on its tail is the points per game bracket. In that bracket, we have, I think, Gonzaga winning that one as well, but they're playing Colgate, so you'll see that one start to fall off in that as well. So we'll definitely keep our eyes on it. Will be really interesting to see, just looking at these rankings right now and some of the games that are upcoming, what will actually end up being the best bracket of this battle. So we'll definitely have to keep following. Tomorrow's games will definitely be an interesting side of things. We saw a bunch of cool upsets today, some improbable winners, especially that Oral Roberts game is super cool to see. But looking forward to that. I think my favorite game, just looking at the slate of games we have here, I like Michigan LSU. I think that'll be a strong game. It'll be interesting to watch Oregon, Iowa, obviously with Oregon not playing a game yet in the tournament, with their first game being declared no contest because of VCU's positive tests within their program. It'll be interesting to see if they come out fresher with, another day of rest, another day of practice to prepare, or if they might come out flat because they haven't gotten into that game mode yet or felt the atmosphere. So definitely will be interesting to see there. Colorado, Florida State being a 4-5 matchup is going to be a close one for sure. So it'll be definitely one of the closer games, I think, at least on paper, but probably one of the closer ones as well. Both those teams had pretty strong outings. Florida State, like we had mentioned before, didn't hit a single three-pointer in their game against UNC Greensboro, so it'll be interesting to see how they rebound from that, if they shoot better or worse. There will also be an interesting one to watch in the Gonzaga game, coming up against a quality opponent in Oklahoma, see if they can continue on the tear that they've been on, stay undefeated, move into the Sweet 16 in such a dominant fashion like we saw them win in the first round. So those few that I mentioned there will definitely be something that I'm going to watch out for tomorrow. Hopefully I'll be able to watch a better selection of those. I know I will also have work again tomorrow for a little bit in there, as well as classes, so there's a chance that I don't get as much of an in-depth look at some of the games, but I'll try my best to bring you guys some good content for tomorrow. If you guys are following along for this series, I really do appreciate it. Like I've said in the last couple of videos, it means a lot to me. And if you guys could leave a like, share with your friends, all that, if you want to, that'd be great. Really appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys, like I said, following along and giving me that support. So I'll see you guys tomorrow after another good set of games, and we'll do another little breakdown with what our brackets will be looking like. See you.